Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mark Loeffler Experience. We have another great show here for you today. We got Ken Bekendam. He is, well, what isn't he? He is a contractor. He's a architect. He basically can take you from start to finish. He's an investor himself. He can take you from start to finish on your renovation project, whether you're turning 1 to 2, 1 to 4, 10 to 20, a church into multifamily. This is your guy. So super interested to have you on. Yeah, I think we're gonna have a great time. Let's just get into it. So welcome, Ken.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to come out and come to your studio here and to talk about all things conversions. Conversions is it's a very big topic. There is lots of different ways of converting. It's not necessarily just a straightforward thing, but it's definitely where the opportunities are these days is in converting properties.
Well, I mean, adding value, right? If you can take a 1 and turn it into a 2 unit, you're adding value. If you can take a 10 and add 2 units, you're adding value to it, right? That's the whole premise is behind obviously a BRRRR strategy or something like that, is to add value. It's the same as taking farmland and changing the zoning on it or something like that, right? We'll get into that in a bit too, but just simple basics to start off with. I want to turn a bungalow from 1 into 2. What's my basic premise that I'm looking for in that bungalow?
Okay, so I like using the bungalow as a great simple example to explain the process. So obviously a bungalow, we have an upper floor, we have a main floor, and we have a basement level. So the very first thing that we have to check into when we're looking at converting a property is the zoning. What is the permitted use in that particular zone, and will it allow a basement apartment? It could be called a secondary dwelling unit, it could be called an accessory dwelling unit. There's lots of different terminology, basically that speaks to what that unit is. We're hearing a lot of terms now, additional dwelling units. We're finding that a lot of municipalities are moving towards that terminology.
Yeah.
But basically, first step is obviously determining the zoning, make sure we are, in fact, within the permitted uses for the property.
And in Ontario, they had the Places to Grow. Is it the Places to Grow Act where they talked about allowing secondary suites basically anywhere?
Bill 108 that the province put out is basically a policy that's going to kind of frame development and basically density. And it's requiring municipalities to amend their existing zoning bylaws to permit more dwelling units. So municipalities, a lot of them have started coming out with new updated bylaws that are allowing, not just secondary dwelling units, but even additional dwellings. So even 3 units on one lot or a house. But the municipalities can control where within their city boundaries that they do allow these units. And so we still have to go to the city bylaw to kind of find out where we can do them. But once the zoning bylaw will tell us the permitted use, but also tell us, okay, what are the parking requirements, what are the lot area requirements, landscaping requirements, like landscape area, unit size, that type of stuff. And so it's really important to know what are the other, not just the permitted use, but what are the requirements for that permitted use.
Yeah.
And this is not only for a bungalow conversion, but this could be for a triplex or a fourplex or a 10 unit. Yeah. The same rules apply.
I mean, just simple. I know that this is, so if everything matches bylaws and whatever in the area, how long does it take to take it from they're buying the property, they contact you, to being permitted to start building that second unit, do you think?
Yeah, so as far as timelines, the first step after you go firm on the property and you're going to be moving forward with the deal is to get your architect in there, get your designer in there, and have them start on the drawings, because we're seeing increasingly delays at the city when it comes to processing permits. Depending on the designer, the firm, and what their current workload is like, it could take anywhere from 2 weeks could take 4 weeks to get a drawing set put together. From there, we're submitting to the city, and a 2-unit conversion the building code legislates a 15 business day review period on that permit submission. Some building departments are great and they're within that legislated time. Some building departments are behind schedule, and they take a little bit longer to process.
Kind of depends whose desk you get put on too sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. Some planners, are very quick at getting their reviews done. Some take to the very end to get it done. So we're seeing anywhere from let's say 4 weeks to get the drawings put together on the long side to easily 3 to 4 week review period. So typically 2 months.
2 months
from site measure to permit issuance, and sometimes it can take a little bit longer than that, depending if there's some back and forth with the city.
Yeah, especially if you're going for variances or anything like that. Like the more complicated it is, the longer that it can take, right?
Yeah, like 2 months is for a pretty straightforward, application. You throw in a variance in there, you're adding another 2 months on top of that, just because of the timelines. There's timelines for notices to go to the community. There's appeal periods, all this kind of stuff.
And if anybody complains or does anything, then obviously that just takes longer, right? So, because
we want to avoid variances whenever we can, just because part of the variance process is that there's notices that go out to the surrounding neighbors, and some neighbors may not say anything, but there's always a few neighbors who might say something about the application, and we're trying to avoid any sort of scrutiny on the project.
Yeah. Although typically the deals that have more hair on them, the tougher they are to get through, the better deal you'll typically get on the buy. So if you're more experienced, or if you're just like Josh Doyle, do you work with Josh?
Yeah, I've done some stuff
right.
with Josh.
So if you work like with Josh on his Sturton property, which we've showed on YouTube,
I did Josh's drawing for that one.
Yeah, so we'll link that down below. But it took him almost a year because of everything that had to go on, because he took 1 to 3, right? And yet he still made a boatload of money on that, right? So
yeah, I think if I recall, I think he had to go through a variance for that one.
He did have to go through a variance, yeah. I mean, obviously conversion projects. I mean, if you're looking at this, I mean, I would reach out to an expert right away, right? Like if I'm looking, I would basically call Ken. Hey, listen, I'm buying a property on Hamilton Mountain, or I'm buying a duplex or a bungalow in St. Catharines, Brantford, Woodstock, wherever, London. And I would say, Ken, what do I need for this? What should I be looking for? What's my requirements? What frontage do I need? What is all this stuff that I need, so I know that what's my basic level?
Yeah, I do have a lot of investors and realtors who are kind of they're analyzing a deal. They're not sure whether they can or cannot legalize it. The thing is, we have to know what we're allowed to do with the property, right? The permitted use from the city. How does the city currently recognize this piece, right? This parcel, because if we're not converting under the existing bylaws, and we either have to go for a variance, right? And let's say we can't actually comply with the zoning. Let's say a variance gets declined. If a variance gets declined for your application, you can't go further and submit to the building department for a 2-unit conversion. All of a sudden, your deal is dead in the water, right? Because no due diligence was kind of done ahead of time. So it's definitely really important to at the end of the day, I don't want to see people make mistakes, right? Where they've gotten themselves into a situation where they've bought in something and they can't legalize it. That's the worst case scenario. There's always there's things that we can do if they get themselves into that situation. But ideally, we need to have all the answers, kind of before we go firm on the deal as far as whether or not it's going to be allowed or not. Yeah. And, sometimes when we get into, bigger conversion projects like converting mixed use, commercial residential into, let's say, straight residential, it's really important to know how the city currently recognizes the property. Through a zoning verification report, because sometimes just because the property is in a particular zone and it says, okay, this zone allows this use, let's say 3 units or whatever, doesn't mean that the city actually recognizes that building as that, right? And so it's really important to know how the city looks at it.
Well, it's so funny because we had Alex Powell on, who you work with as well, and he was converting a place on King Street, and it was just rundown duplex that had a commercial thing in the back that had like a Mike Subs in it or something like that, just some short, squat, little ugly building. And he redid the duplex, and then he was going to convert the commercial into another like 2 units, and everybody in the neighborhood loved it. Like everybody in the neighborhood was like, "This is the best thing ever!" Like you're helping all his neighbors, and the city councilor was like, "No, we need commercial there." So the city councilor was fighting it, and basically he had to go to planning, and then planning basically said to the city councilor, "Have you been there? Because all these other commercial stores are vacant, and he wants to do something good in your neighborhood." So, and that counselor is no longer there. He now is he got bumped up, because if you're incompetent in politics, you can get bumped up. So, but
Yeah.
so I mean, but it's like we talked about this on the beginning, right? Is how do you maximize your return, and change of use can do that, right? So if you're buying commercial and you can convert that into, you know, if you were going to get say $1,000 a month for that sub shop, but now he's making a couple of nice 2-bedroom units there, he's probably taken that $1,000 and turned it into, what, $1,500 a piece, so $3,000. And the other thing he would have done was, well, it's tougher to get financing on something like that, so now he's turned it into a residential fourplex, which is definitely easy to get financing on, right? So, and I'm sure you see this stuff all the time.
Yeah,
right?
like it's really about being creative. Like, especially in the current market where we have a lot of competition on, on residential houses on MLS, right? There's a ton of competition. If you can, find these deals that not everybody's looking at, because maybe they don't see the opportunity, or you can be really creative and come up with something. Like there's huge opportunity there. And the folks that I see that are making really solid returns, and they're not taking a huge risk. Like they're the ones that are coming up with these really creative deals. They're finding stuff that nobody else is looking at.
Yeah.
I recently just went firm on a church purchase.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk a bit about that.
So that,
because obviously you're an investor yourself, right? And this is why, if you're going to go work with somebody, they should be an investor themselves, because you know what, you're probably going to think a little bit different than other planners or other designers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so I wear an investing hat first and foremost. I'm an investor first. I gotten into the architectural drawings, as that's kind of my skill set, my trade, if you will, that I had in my background. But I think like an investor first, I'm looking for those creative opportunities. I'm helping clients, convert stuff. And the thing with the church deal was that it was on MLS.
Yeah.
It's not like it was a wholesale deal. It was on MLS. It was sitting there for a number of weeks. Nobody was looking at it. I put an offer in, no competition. There wasn't a single other offer on it. And I was able to secure this great asset that we're going to be converting into, 6. I might shoot for 7 units on it, maybe even 8, but for sure 6. And I got this great building now, great solid, historical building that I can now convert into multi-residential with no competition.
And it's cool. So you'll have that extra rentability factor. Would you mind talking a bit about the numbers on that one? Because I'm interested in it. So
yeah, okay. So I'm just getting into the numbers on it.
Yeah.
But basically, so you're not going to believe.
Just super high level. What'd you buy it for?
You're not going to believe what I bought it for.
Okay, 150 grand.
420,000.
Okay.
Okay, 420 for this building. The land alone is worth like 200, 250 just on the land it's sitting on.
Could you tear it down if you wanted to?
It doesn't have like historical designation on it, so I could level it if I wanted to.
But why would you? Yeah.
But right now, so this is in Brantford. There's not another single bungalow on the market that's selling for less than 450.
Yeah.
Right now. So I got this massive church for 420 that we can make 6 or 7 units into it. So like right now, I'm budgeting between 500,000 and 600,000 on the renovations.
Okay. So let's even call it 700. So you're in for 112.
Yeah, I'm in it for between 900 and $1 million. I think between the purchase and the renovations.
Yeah.
Obviously we're just getting into our pre-consultations and our building drawings, and we'll start kind of firming up those reno quotes depending on what the city wants. But like I'm targeting it to be about 1.5. I think the after repair value on it. And
Yeah, I mean 6. So what are you gonna make 6 2-bedroom units? You're gonna
yeah, probably. Right now, I think we're shooting for 4 2 beds and maybe one beds. You know, we're
2 1-beds and 4 2-beds, or
4 2-bedroom units
yeah,
and 2
two,
1-bedroom
one,
units. You know, we've been playing with the floor plans, trying to squeeze out. We're trying to do more 2 bedrooms if we can.
Yep.
But that's the current deal right now. I'm just doing it just on my own as my own investment project, if you will. And you know, it's an interesting project. It is, you know, I'm starting to dig through some of the historical stuff of the church. You know, trying to find old photos of it, what they used to do there. You know, what the congregation used to, you know, look like and what they did and stuff like that, just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what everybody does for fun. Is
sure.
I'm gonna go through the church archives for fun. I mean,
Yeah, why not? You know,
yeah.
I'm trying to, you know, when we're going to do the conversion and set up these new like these church lofts, you know, we want to kind of bring a cool factor to it, you know. And so I've been doing a lot of research on church conversions, and you know, I've been getting connected with some other developers that have, you know, recently converted churches.
Did you ever talk to the Wyrots?
Yes, yeah, I've been in contact with them.
They bought the church, and so that townhouse development was my grandfather's glass shop.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, so I just been I met them before at a networking event,
Yep.
and but I never had a project that was kind of similar to what they've done, you know. So no, so definitely I'm leaning on them to, you know, if I need help with anything as far as the process, especially taking it through the city. And then you know, Corey McKinnon, he's working on a church conversion right now too, so he's got some experience there too. So
Yeah, Corey's actually going to come in next week and talk to us.
Yeah,
about some of the stuff he's doing too. So
yeah, so yeah, it's fun. I'm still at the very beginning stage. Like I just went firm on it, you know, like last week.
I know. I just saw that on Instagram, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
so,
amazing. So what other types of like what have you done this year? Like what does the investment portfolio looks like?
So like on a personal level, you know, I do anywhere between, you know, 3 to 5 kind of houses a year, converting and renovating myself and adding it to my portfolio. You know, on the business side, you know, we're doing upwards of 150 conversion permits and projects a year for other investors out there. You know, on the renovation side, we're converting around 30 houses a year for clients. And yeah, I see everything from, you know, simple bungalows to larger, like 11 or 16 unit conversions. So,
Are you seeing a lot of well, let me ask you this for me personally. So I own an apartment, I have garages. Can I convert the garages to apartments?
well, so that's a great example. So first, you'd have to find, okay, well, how many units does the city currently recognize and allow on this
Less than
parcel?
what I
Right?
own.
Right. So you'd be increasing the density there,
Mhm.
right? Trying to add more units to the existing parcel. And typically an apartment building zone, it's going to require rezoning, no question.
So if I'm taking it from 18 to 20,
Yeah.
that's going to be a rezone.
Well, it depends on the zone. It depends
Okay.
on the zoning that's there, and what they, you know, it depend. Yeah, it all starts with the zone, because that zone will tell us, okay, you know, what are the requirements for a multiple dwelling,
Yeah.
right? In your case, it's going to be a multiple dwelling type of permitted use we're looking for, right? So under that, there could be unit sizes associated with that. There could be parking spaces associated with that. There could be lot area associated with that. That will kind of more or less determine how many units we could physically, you know, or that we'd be permitted there. Then you have the building constraints, right? You know, we have to meet Ontario building code for these units, right? Do you have your ceiling height? You know, what's your means of egress like? You know, we have to get our fire separations in there. Can we conform to the minimum room sizes within this garage for a dwelling unit as per Ontario building code?
Yeah.
So, you know, when investors come to me and they ask me that question, I start with the zoning.
Yeah.
And okay, what's the permitted use? What are the requirements for that? And can this building actually conform to that?
Yeah.
You know, On a bit of a smaller scale, let's say, you know, someone's looking at a single family home and they want to bring it up to a triplex, which is 3 dwelling units, which under the building code is now considered a building.
Mm-hmm.
Can this building, in fact, meet building code as a triplex? It could meet building code as a house with 2 dwelling units,
Mm-hmm.
which were allowed reductions under the building code, especially with our minimum ceiling heights. And sometimes we can't, just because the zoning may permit 3 units there in that particular zone, doesn't mean that the building itself will conform with building code as a triplex.
Yeah.
And so this is where I see a lot of people kind of they get themselves in these situations where they can't meet building code now, right? Without having to like lower the floor or jack up the house or something.
So how often are you seeing that? So how often are you somebody coming to you? Here's the project. I've researched it all, and then it comes back and they're like, crap out of luck.
Not too often because because I'm helping people find those answers before they're going out and buying something or going firm on it.
Yeah.
Right. So they're getting me involved as part of the conditional period.
Yeah.
Where they have a bit more time now to actually look into the building and the zoning and making sure that we can actually do what we want to do here.
So I think that's one of the biggest things is it's like finding a great tenant. It's doing your homework up front. It's putting the work in up front to know what you're buying in, so you don't have an unexpected outcome, and then you have to have something like the market going up 20% to save you and make you look smart. You can look smart and get what you want if you just do the work up front.
Yeah. Like I've had clients who they've gone firm on something thinking that they can do 3 units because, oh shoot, there's so much space here, but they didn't understand enough about the building code where they didn't have the height.
Yeah. So
it's like, shoot, now they have to spend an extra 30,000 or 40,000 or more on lowering the floor or bench footings or underpinning.
Yeah.
And the zoning didn't even permit 3 units to start, right? So then they're running these numbers on this scenario that they can't even actually do.
Yeah.
And so they threw their numbers out for a whack, and I don't know what happened to the deal, but I never ended up doing any sort of anything for that client.
Fair enough. Well, Ken, thank you so much for coming in. I think this is definitely one of the most interesting ones for me. I love talking about this stuff. I can geek out on this all day long. And once you get started on that church project, we'd love to come up and see it and maybe do a video up there.
Yeah, I got my floor plans in the works. I have a pre-consult date. Actually, the deadline's this week. Have to get in. And then my pre-consultation is sometime in January. So
awesome.
It's going to be great. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited too. All right. Thank you, sir.